say, do you want to do a recap of last week? But you're going to be like, nah,
I'm going to get my life together one day. It's just not right now.
So the green dot is what he wants us to speak into when we're talking. And around here we ring bells. We're very inspiring.
I think you all need a bell.
Very inspiring for the moment where you have made that point.
I'm going to utilize this open space for my long legs.
Let's talk about me. Make sure you press start. Oh. You gotta press start. Tip job. Mic check, mic check.
Mic check.
One more time.
I probably, yeah, there I am. There I am. Hey. Just let me know when you're ready, Jay. Anyone? Okie dokie. Good morning, ladies.
Good morning.
Welcome back through the nets. It's Bigger Than Basketball, episode 2. And today we have 3 of the ladies of 9. We're going to introduce ourselves, and then we'll introduce our special guest. Sitting in front of me.
I know I'm tall,
right?
Not standing. No, this is Sonia Waters Thomas, and yes, again, 3 children. Soleil Thomas, she's at Clemson University volleyball scholarship. Xavier Thomas, 14, he's middle schooler, and Tyler Thomas. Last episode, I said my son was in double digits, automatically seen 11, but he told me, Mom, 10. I'm like, so, okay. I made a mistake.
My bad. Well, he watched the show, so
yes,
I'm sure
listens,
he has something to say. And to my right, far right.
Me? Oh, hey, y'all.
The quiet person, yeah.
The quiet one, you know, like talking so much. I'm Terry. I'm Jamal's mom. I'm here.
Hey. And last, I am Lakita, mother of Robert. And last week, we actually talked about purpose. And so how we purposely do things as parents.
Yes.
And today we thought that it was so fitting to bring on a special guest who kind of has been where we are and is doing the things that we want to get to, or has done the things that we want to get to with her son.
Yes.
And today our special guest is Dr. Sabrina Jackson.
Yes, author
of He Is Not a Statistic. So to get started, we just want to kind of let you tell us a little bit about yourself and tell us your story, and then I think everyone will figure out why you're important to our podcast today.
Well, I'm Dr. Sabrina Jackson, and I am a business owner. I am a radio talk show host. I am on Fox 2 every week on Tuesdays at 6:30 with my own segments.
Hey.
People 911 with Dr. Sabrina. But most importantly, I am Marcel Smith's mother.
Yes. Yes.
And so when I became a single mother, because I am a single mother, when I became a single mother, people kept saying to me, well, you know you're going to get in trouble. Well, you know what the statistics say about single parent homes. You know he's going to do this, he's going to do that. And I just was like, not my son.
Right.
Amen.
Don't put that on my baby.
It's not going to happen. And so as he continued to matriculate and do well, both academically and athletically, people start asking me, what did I do to create a Marcel Smith?
Yes.
And I said, I don't know, I guess I did something. So one night I sat up and I thought about it, and I came up with 12 things. The way God gave them to me is the way that I wrote them.
Amen.
And I did not waver from the way the Holy Spirit spoke and told me to write them. So I wrote 12 things down. I called Marcel and told him, because by this time he was in college, and he was like, yeah, okay, that sounds good.
Right.
And then I stuck them in my Bible. And years went by, I hadn't done anything with them. And so I ran into a guy, I was facilitating an event because I'm a speaker for a living, so I'm always talking. And so the guy came up to me afterwards, he says, you have several books in you. I'm going to help you.
Confirmation is everything, right?
Yes, it is.
A book out. And he says, well, do you have anything? I says, well, I got this list of these things.
Mhm.
And so he says, well, we'll bring them out. And so as we started talking about them, and we were looking at what the name of the book was going to be, and the name of the book was going to be 12 Laws for Single Mothers Raising Black Males. And then I went to a training, because I'm one who believes in getting education.
As we all should.
Yes, ring that bell.
We all should.
Education. So I went to one of the top self-publishing gurus. He had a training, and I went to his training. And one of the first things he said is, never have a title that starts with a number.
Okay.
Okay. Mhm.
Rules.
And I said, and I think like, well, why not? And he says, because when it comes to where they put it in the store, in the bookstore,
It'll be
you don't know where it is. Sometimes it'll be before the alphabet,
Yep.
and sometimes it'll be after the alphabet.
Yeah.
But people won't know. But if you use a letter, then it's always going to be in alphabetical order, and it's easier for someone to find it.
Amen
So
to
then I
knowledge.
said,
Yes.
oh. So then I started thinking about, okay, well, what could the title be? And I said, well, the one thing I remember saying is that my son is not going to be a statistic. And so
Amen.
that's where the title came from. He is not a statistic, because
right.
he's not.
That's right.
Yes.
And then the tagline under that is 12 Laws for Single Mothers
There you
Raising
go.
Black Males. And I specifically called them laws and not principles or tips, because principles and tips you can take or leave.
Yes.
Yeah.
Laws are mandates.
And
I know
exactly.
these 12 work
Yes.
That's right.
because God gave them to me.
Mhm.
And so what I say is, although I wrote the book for mothers of boys, specifically black boys, but the laws are just laws. You can use them with girls. You can
Universal
use them-
laws.
Yes.
That's right.
They're just laws. So
Perfect.
Applicable to each child.
Yes.
And other cultures.
Absolutely,
Yes.
other cultures. So I do have a book specifically for the Hispanic population and one for the Arabic population.
Nice.
I might need to talk to you afterward and somewhere.
Yes, 'cause she works-
Arabic population.
Yes, yes.
So being culturally sound is wonderful. So
Yeah.
at least you can transfer.
Absolutely.
So to dig into this book, we want to talk about some of these laws because
Yeah.
some of them are quite interesting and quite hot as topics that we deal with as mothers. However, people in our community deal with all the time. And I think that getting this information out, talking about it, is going to help so many people. And you have some hot topics in this 12.
Well, they were just they were just
I'm sorry.
real,
Well, laws.
real for real. What I was going through, and what I could remember as issues that I faced, and how I navigated those waters, and then what things made sure that Marcel had a very good sound thought about certain things.
Mhm.
So I know one of the laws, y'all. I already know one. I already know. Number 3.
Number 3.
Law number 3.
Law number 3.
And I had to make it number 3. I think it was the Holy Spirit said, make that number 3 because the trilogy is important.
Amen.
Yes.
Amen.
But number 3 says, never badmouth the absent father.
Mm.
Never,
Yeah.
ever badmouth the absent father.
So you're
in other-
teaching already at this table. Woo, woo, you teaching.
Well, this is, and I say it for several reasons. The first reason is that the word tells us to honor thy mother and thy father, so that your days will be long.
Yeah.
So don't cut their days short
Mm-hmm.
by giving them an opportunity to badmouth their own parent.
Yeah.
Amen. Right.
Don't do that,
Yeah.
because kids will emulate and model what you do,
Yes, they will.
not what you say.
Yes.
So when they see you do it, they think it's okay.
Yeah.
Right. Do we have any comments at this table?
Mm.
I just want to say ouch.
Just say,
And
you
my
can't
bad.
say amen, just say ouch. Just say ouch.
But it's still, it's no different than, yes, I'm married. I've been married for 18 years. So even when you have a child who's upset at the other parent,
Yes.
you don't have to be single. You can
Right.
be married when
Yep.
you have
Yep.
watch what you
Conflict
say
with
around
your children.
your
Absolutely.
children or your child. It is. Because next thing you know, they think it's normal.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, and then they see somebody else do it, so we have to change and break that And I will honestly say, yes, it's a generational curse. It's not just within the family, it's outside. It's something that you hear frequently, and you're like, hold on, this is not for you. So yes, we do need to be careful about what we say around our children.
Yeah, we have to be careful. The other reason that I say it is that at one point, you couldn't wait for the phone to ring, the text to come. You couldn't wait to see him.
Sure.
And so the reason that he's the father is your fault.
Amen.
Right.
Okay.
Own your stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So you don't have to, if it did not work out with you all as a couple,
Right.
that does not mean that he cannot be a person of influence positively in his child's life. But this is my favorite reason. My favorite reason is number 3. Number 3 is you don't want nobody talking about your family members while you talking about your child's family member, because that's still
His family.
his family.
His or her family.
Yeah.
And they had that DNA. Let me tell you something about DNA.
What?
DNA. What? DNA ain't no joke.
Yeah.
Because Marcel was not, for many years, they weren't real close. They saw each other. I never stopped him from being able to see his dad.
Sure.
But his dad was doing some other things and traveling, so he didn't see him a whole lot. And so we were at a party. And Marcel was grown, and Marcel and his little friend ran on the dance floor and started dancing. And I turned around and looked at my child, and I said, oh my God.
He looks like his father.
He
Does he
moves
remind you?
just like his dad. When I say I laughed, like, oh my God, I had to call, I was in Houston. I called my cousin and said, girl, you're just not gonna believe who he danced like. He danced, and sometimes when he's telling a story,
Yeah, you see the
he
mannerisms.
sounds just like, he tell a story just like his dad. And people who see me and him together always say, oh, Marcel looks just like you until
You see his
you
father.
see him.
Sounds like me. Sounds like me.
Oh, that DNA is strong.
And it's
Yeah.
so strong.
Yeah.
Quick question, Terry. As you are listening to Dr. Jackson speak about the law number 3, what are some of your...
You
I
don't
know,
like?
but I want to know, how do you feel? You've already said, I don't like law number 3. So how do you feel? What are your thoughts?
I don't want to give credit where credit's not due.
Okay.
And the situation may be different. She did say he was in and out, and they did speak and hang out or do whatever they did when they had time. We don't have that.
Right.
So I'm not going to give credit where credit's not due. To me,
Okay.
my
What about
opinion is that-
silence
Yeah.
over?
But
not
no, because some things I have to bring to my son's attention because he'll let it go. Because
How old is your son?
my son's 16, turned
Okay.
16 in January. I mean, the beginning of this month, still January, I think. I don't know when it is.
Yeah.
Yesterday, someone, the day before yesterday, whenever his last game was Friday, someone came to his game, left work, someone that we've known forever since he was a child. This person calls him every birthday, Merry Christmas and all that. He came to his game. He went to Jamal's game on Friday, and I said, did you get a chance to speak with Gooch? He's like, I seen him. I was like, did you say hi? He's like, no. It's like, Jamal, well, you have to acknowledge these people. These are people that support you. You don't have many. When you see someone that you know or someone that comes
Right.
out of their way to support you, you need to speak to them. And then I said, when you talk to your grandma on the other side, you're excited when she tells you a story about your dad who doesn't give a care. He doesn't call, doesn't text, has not called in years, hasn't texted. I said, but you get excited, like, tell my dad I said hi. You have a person that came out to support you, and you didn't even speak to him, sitting in his presence. I said, that's not fair. And so I talked about that day.
Okay.
I'll say this by experience that I did. I know you had something. So for me, through experience, what I've learned, being divorced since 2008, is that no matter what your parents do to you, good, bad, indifferent,
Yeah.
and especially when it's not good, the baby is going to still love, still desire, still want, and urge for that mother or that father, and therefore it is up to them to make the decision, not us to instill that decision.
And that's true, but because he already lacks social skills, I want to make him know when it's proper, when it's appropriate to socialize. And he missed the moment.
Can I just jump in
Yes,
here?
ma'am.
Yes, doctor.
Because I believe in teachable moments.
Go for it.
One of the things that I heard you say, and while you said it, the energy
Oh yeah.
attached to it. The
Body
energy-
language.
Yeah, the energy attached to it is bitterness that you have.
I don't even think I care about this.
Well, okay, you may not say, you can say that, but your body language say, when you talked about your grandmother on your other side, and that's still his family. That's still his family. And however he feels about his family, it's his right to feel that way about his family. However, the example that you were giving about speaking to people who support you is a good example.
Great example.
But to make the comparison between how he is about his daddy and how he is about somebody who's coming, you could give the example without adding that piece. So adding that piece made it personal to him about his daddy. Don't make that comparison. Just teach the lesson. If someone comes to support you, you speak. That's what we do, period.
Yeah.
Not, oh, but if it was your dad, don't add the extra. Because when you add the extra, at some point, it's going to come back to bite. And you don't want to have that conflict between you and your child, especially when you know you're doing everything.
Everything, yeah.
Especially when you know you're doing everything.
Mm-hmm.
And so one of the things that I believe is that I made it so that Marcel's opinion about his daddy
Would be so
It's
weird.
his-
was his.
Yes.
So and the thing that I love, and I'm glad that I was able to do this, because I got to the point that I totally forgave his father for what he didn't do. I totally forgave his father for what he wasn't in our lives. I totally forgave him for that, because forgiveness
It's not for that person.
is
It's
never
you.
for the other person. It's always for me. And so because I walked in a place of forgiveness, I knew that God was honored by that.
Amen.
So now how I knew I forgave him is that because the way we broke up was devastating. I was away on business. Marcel was 11 months old. I came home to an empty house.
Ooh. Ooh.
And my child gone.
Wow.
Devastating.
Yeah,
To
I'm
the point that
speechless.
I was physically ill. Because I didn't know where my child was. And he wasn't calling me back. And my house is
Empty.
empty. All his clothes, it was devastating. But when I got to the point that I knew I was healed about it, is that my ex-husband is a referee. And I know he's a referee because I remember signing a check to send to the state to become a referee. And so I used to work for the county, and the county was developing, this is a long time ago, a midnight basketball program.
Mm.
And with midnight basketball, they needed referees. So the guy who was over midnight basketball called me and said, do you know anyone? I'm looking for some referees. Do you know anyone that could possibly referee? Now, at this time, he wasn't coming to get Marcel. He wasn't paying child support. And I knew through midnight basketball, if they paid him, they were going to pay him under the table.
Mhm.
And he wasn't going to give me none of that money either. But I referred him.
Amen.
And when he got the call, he was like, who
What?
referred? Who referred?
Anticipating that. You were hoping it wasn't you.
Exactly.
You don't understand. You're supposed to be mad.
Who referred you? And the joy that I felt in that moment of knowing that it wasn't about him, but it was about him.
Amen.
And if him says, do a thing, you better do a thing. Because if he have to make you do it, it's never pleasant.
Yeah.
That's
And
true.
So when I knew I
Pay
had,
that bill.
Never pleasant.
it's just never pleasant. And so I was really, and so I'm so cool
Yeah.
Yes.
with, you know, that's his, and I always, for Father's Day, for his birthday, when Marcel was a minor, I always made him recognize it. I always made him get a card or send a card. I always made him call them. I always made him do it. And it's because the word tells me to honor. My son didn't have nothing to do with that man being his daddy. That was my fault.
Mm-hmm.
And
don't-
I have to honor. I
don't
have to
curse your
teach.
child by
I have to
decisions or-
teach honor.
Yes.
Because, and then the other thing is I was able to do it because I wasn't bitter anymore.
Yeah.
Because what doesn't make us, you know, what doesn't break us makes us better. So I believe that I am better for what I've been through.
And you are, and we all are when we get past that point.
Sure.
You know, because I think we've all gone that way, maybe to begin. But once your eyes are open to forgiveness and understanding you made that choice, I can honestly say my life with my son and his father has been great. Like, nothing bothers me. He can do whatever. It doesn't bother me. Now, I might say in my head or complain
or
to a
my
friend.
girlfriend, or
but
never to the child.
Exactly. Because you don't want to curse him.
And it's interesting, even now.
You do a wonderful job, though, Peter. Honestly, for everything that I know, I think you do a wonderful job.
Thank you. I try so hard. It's hard. Now, don't get me wrong. It's hard.
Sure.
But, you know, it's about the babies.
Somebody just says, you make me want to forgive and heal.
That's what we're here for,
Yeah.
to help people just get a better understanding of the different ways we can do things.
The other thing in my book, when I do the introduction and I say my thank yous, at first I thank God. The second thank you was to his daddy.
Mm-hmm.
Now, did his daddy deserve it? Really? No. But the reason that I thanked him is because nobody else on the planet could have made a Marcel Smith but his daddy.
Amen. That's right.
Nobody else's DNA
Thank you
could
for your
have
gift.
made
Yes.
the greatest gift I've ever had outside of salvation.
Woo!
I thank God for that man and his DNA, because when I say my son is an incredible person,
Yes.
and he's not just an incredible person because of me, he has still that man's DNA in him, and that DNA has made and helped make an incredible person.
Amen. Hey, yeah, Marcel. What's another law, Dr. Jackson, that you think is really hot that we can talk about?
I think be an example of real life.
What law is that? What number?
That's number 5.
Number 5. Say it again.
No, that's number 4. That's number 4. Number 4 is be an example of real life. And why I say this is that I know women who become single parents and all they do is parent.
You can get up on my business with this book.
All they do is parent. And they'll say things like, well, I'm not going to date until he's grown and gone. Well,
we gonna be lonely forever.
no, this is my thing, and this is what I believe. Children need to see an example of real life, not a life that is not real. Because if you are, like, when I broke up with my ex-husband, I was 29. I think I was 29. And so was I going to be the next, and my son was 11 months old, was I going to do another 17 years?
Without somebody.
Can I be real? Without sex?
Hey.
No. So real life talk, I'm just saying. So I dated appropriately. And so as Marcel became an adult and started his own dating, one of the things he said to me is that he really appreciated the example that he saw of someone coming to pick me up, someone treating me well, someone I'm laughing and joking and playing and having fun with someone in an adult appropriate relationship. Yeah. Now I say this, people do, it's like a continuum. So on one hand of the continuum, you go, I ain't gonna ever date, and he ain't gonna ever see me date, and I don't want him to see me like that. Then that's false.
False, exactly.
That's
False.
not
reality.
And that's not real. Or you go to the other end of the spectrum, and everybody that come over spend the night. No,
That's not real either.
that ain't real either. So you want to teach appropriate life. Like one of the things I do, I believe that setting goals and writing your goals down and checking them off, that's a thing that we do. Yes. So when he became, I think maybe middle school, we started every week writing our goals for the week, putting them on the refrigerator.
Yes.
And then going through and checking them off. Checking them off. And so what's so funny is that certain things that I've instilled in him, I may not do as often, but when I say it's a pattern for him, because he's much more rigid than I am, I'm like the free-flowing person, and he'll go like, Mom, what's your goals? What's your goals for this? What's your goals for the year? Have you done your goals for the year? No. I'm busy doing the year. What do you mean?
Exactly. And I'll give another example of the law number 4. being real. So for a long time, as my son was growing, I would never drink in front of him.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't drink in front of him as a youth when he was young. And so now he's 14. And I'll say over the last year and a half, he's seen his mother drink. But I knew I couldn't be fake because I drink sometimes, occasionally. But what I didn't want him to see as a young child was to feel like, well, he wouldn't understand. He didn't understand. And so I didn't want him to see it then as a young child. I wanted him to know, what's appropriate, what's not appropriate, what's legal, what's not legal. And then I didn't want him to always say, or be able to say, well, she didn't drink when I was younger, and then when he gets grown, well, so you drink now? So I kind of gradually gave him the truth without allowing him to think that it was okay at a young age seeing somebody drink every day, which I don't drink every day. I'm just saying, giving an example, but
we get it.
You know what I mean? But I mean, I was specifically, people like, oh, you coming through? No, I'm not gonna come through because y'all drinking and my kid can't see that right now. But he's now 13, 14, where that is something that his friends or people he know are doing it. Mm-hmm. So now is the time to be real and show him the responsibility of a person who drinks. And I also teach him, like, if you want to be a great athlete, you don't drink, you don't do drugs. But, that's kind of how I navigated. But that's a good example of being real.
Real life.
Right. Yeah, because I drink, so.
Yeah, I just think that children need to see what's real, not, because I know a lot of people who say, well, no. And then once the mother gets, the kid gets grown, and then the mother decides they want to date, then the kid is really having difficulty.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
like
what?
Like, who is that?
You ain't never dated before. Now why you gonna date now?
Right. You don't need no man. You
don't need no man. You got me.
me.
And I just tell myself, trust and believe.
You gonna leave out this house?
There are some things that, and not even just with me. I remember because both my parents are deceased, and when my parents passed away, my son was thinking about getting a tattoo of my parents' face on his back. And I went, no, my name maybe, but faces? Because at some point, you're going to have someone rubbing your back. And you don't want them thinking about your grandparents. That might just spoil the mood, boo-boo. I'm just saying.
We can do it that way.
I've always been real with him about real life stuff. Sure. So when it came to dating, when it came to just all of that, we talk about everything. We just
sex now. I'm so open with him. Yes, he.
Commercials.
Hey, I know you had that on the computer. I don't got time for that. Everybody in the world do it, but don't do that on my work computer, okay? Because I might get fired. So do that on your own time and handle your business. Make sure you clean up after yourself, sir. And he's looking at me like, what is wrong with this lady? I'm being real.
Yep, you got to
be
real.
Adult stuff.
I told him when he was in middle school, I sent him to, in the middle of the year we moved, and I moved him to a different school. And so in the middle of the year, I told him, I said, okay, let me tell you about what's going to happen when you start at this school. You're an athlete. So when you get there, the women are going to converge among themselves and decide which one of them is your girlfriend. You don't even know her name.
Or all of them.
All of them.
You don't even know her name. So then she going to make it her business to get you to know her name. So she's going to be in the hallway, hey, Marcel, hey. And you're going to be, hey, how you doing? And then she's gonna, because they all wear uniforms, but she's gonna make her uniform different. She's gonna tie hers up.
She's gonna tie that shirt up
right up under her belly. And then she's gonna walk by and you're gonna go, oh, hey, how you doing? Then one day you're gonna be standing in the hallway with your boys, talking, chilling, and she's gonna come by and rub.
Or she gonna hug breast, chest.
Yes.
Teach your boys how to hug with the side,
all that. Bump. And I say, as soon as she rubs, your member is gonna come alive.
And there it is.
And he was like, Mom. I said, let me tell you how I know about women, because I am one.
Yes. And I think that's one of the greatest gifts that we actually can teach our sons. that we know because we are
We
women.
We know.
Exactly.
We know.
We know.
So let's talk
We
about law number 7.
Number 7.
Because law number 7
Oh.
is very, very important. I believe, especially for our children in this society today, especially the last C. But you go ahead.
Infuse the concepts of coachability, confidence, and compassion. Coachability is because there was a study that was done by a group called Leadership IQ. Leadership IQ is an international firm that studies trends for leaders. I believe that everybody is a leader because we navigate the world from the space we occupy, and we have no idea who's watching us and making decisions based on what they see us do.
All day. And
Sure.
So we have to understand that this whole leadership thing is a real thing. And so in this study, they said, what were the top reasons why people were failing at their jobs? The number one reason was coachability. And coachability is seen when you lack the ability to take and implement feedback from your coworkers, from your bosses, from your clients, whomever.
please tell all these people in
If
detail.
you cannot hear from someone else how to do it different, how to make it better, how do you get better?
Sure.
If can't nobody tell you nothing. So I needed for my son to understand that yes, you have a right to your opinion. Yes, you have a right to what you think about life and all of those things. But there's always going to be someone that's going to see it different, that can teach it different. You have to be open.
And it doesn't mean that you're wrong. You're not gonna say that.
No, it's just addition.
Yeah.
You may need to do it. I'll give you a perfect example. When I started my PhD program, the dean of the school said something that just floored me, and I've kept it to this day. He said, for all of you that's here, you've had many successes. But the very thing that made you successful to get here
Right. It's the people
could
that
be
got
the
from
thing
failures.
that will cause you to fail while you're here.
Yes.
Because this is a whole new place.
Yes.
You're going to have all new skill sets that you'll have to learn. And those skill sets work then, they may not work now.
now.
So
Yeah.
you got to be open to something new. So coachability is huge. Hey, Kendrick Jackson, with your singing self. How are you? And then confidence. Confidence is important because we need to understand that confidence is not the same thing as arrogance. And with our boys, we have to infuse confidence in them because the world is designed to beat it out of them.
Tell me about it.
Yes.
Tell me about
So
it.
I wanted to make sure that he was a strong person within himself.
Sure.
And if you're strong within yourself, you're not seeking outside validation.
Amen.
So I don't need anybody to tell me that I'm a wonderful catch.
I know that's right.
I'm a wonderful catch.
Period.
It ain't many women like me.
Period.
I know that. So I don't need a man to validate who I am. I don't need a man to tell me that I'm fine because when I woke up, hey, they can't handle all this chocolate. And so when a man will tell me, well, I want to be the one to tell you that you are that. Yeah, you can tell me that I'm all that. Thank you very much. But if you never tell me,
I already know.
I'm still good.
I tell me, because it is important to me how I feel about me. And if somebody else don't like it, that's okay. But I navigate the world from a space of confidence.
And that's
So I modeled it,
Yes.
and so now
Go ahead.
No, I got
Yes,
something to say about
yes.
that.
come on,
Yes.
come on.
Being an educator, this is something I see every single day. My son is 14. He's 6'3"-ish, 6'4".
6'3". Oh Lord, they own them.
Then you have our teachers.
Yeah, I was gonna say schools.
Be careful what you say to these children.
Coaches.
If any teacher out there, if my children come across your classroom, know that if you say something wrong, even if you're having a bad day, I think checking yourself at the door is a wonderful thing. Okay, because whatever SHIT you have, get that off you first. Because you can make or break a kid.
Yes.
Because they
Yes.
go and take their sponges, they absorb everything. So if you go and tell a kid and say, if you raise your hand, especially when you have a child who is not the most confident, but you're building confidence, building, teaching them to be motivated things, no question is silly. However, I'm encouraging you, raise your hand if you have a question for clarity.
Mm-hmm.
Watch what you say, teachers.
Mm-hmm.
No question is dumb. Or
Right.
you say, that's a dumb question. No,
Right.
keep that to yourself
Mhm.
because you could initially make or break a kid.
Yes.
Let me give you an example. Because Marcel is 5'7", and so Marcel, was playing basketball. He was a point guard, and he was doing well and playing on the family and all of that good stuff. And so some coaches began to tell him, well, if you don't get to be 6 feet, you're not going to Division I school. I'm just letting you know now. And so I told the coaches, that might have been your experience.
Yes.
However, that's not necessarily what's going to be true for my son. So if you don't have anything positive to say, shut up.
Keep it to yourself.
Because I'm in his ear. And I don't stay in your lane
We build up, we don't strip.
for the coach. I don't tell you how to coach.
Right.
Don't get in my lane as a
That's my
parent.
part right there.
That's my part. I got that. So if you get nothing positive, say that's cool. Just keep it to yourself. And so people would always say that to him. They say, "You're not going to go to the evening." Well, I told him because I remember him being a little discouraged and other people on his team that grew up with him and everything were being recruited at by more schools and things of that nature. And I says, I'm gonna tell you something. If God say Division I, Division I it shall be,
Right.
and Division I it was. And so I just did not. I would not allow anybody to scrape away at his confidence.
Amen.
And I did not allow him to become arrogant, because what I told him is that your athletic abilities are a gift.
Yes,
Sure.
And if you ever disrespect the gift or the gift giver,
he will do what?
he will take it away.
Take it away.
So you need
Hit
to
that bell.
honor it. I hit
Okay.
the bell. And so the last is compassion.
Sure.
And compassion is necessary because we need to make sure that people feel other things. Empathy is a skill set that's necessary for resolving any conflict.
Yes.
Yes.
If you can't stop and look at it from the other person's point of view, it'll always be about you.
Yeah.
And so I remember my son and I were doing an interview, and a guy called into the station and says, your mother taught you compassion. Don't you think that makes you a man? And that make you weak? And my son was 21. I'll never forget it. He said, well, this is the one thing I know about all people. All people require, they want love. And the only way that you're ever going to truly experience love for real is by being vulnerable. If you're not vulnerable, you're never going to sit in the seat of really experiencing love. So I thank my mother for putting compassion in me.
And I put up a quote the other day that said, I do not believe you can lead successfully. You can lead no one successfully if you don't love anyone. And that's just what I feel. How can I lead anyone to any place that's good if I don't love anybody?
But you got to love yourself first, because otherwise those positive attributes would not be exposed.
Exactly.
They cannot honestly and truly be expressed.
Exactly.
It's just not going to happen.
Yeah. And I think I really wanted her to talk about the compassion, because teaching for 16, 17 years, coaching all of the kids that I've coached, and to see where some of our kids are today as far as feeling for other people, it's not there. It's like a blank space. It's like something can happen today to their teammate or their classmate, and it'll be a joke, or it's a video, and you're standing back watching. And I don't get that. I don't understand why the world has that level of disregard for each other.
I do. We live in a society that is very individualized. We teach the power of me.
Me over you.
And we teach all that, and we don't teach the fact that we were created to be interdependent, never independent.
I am a servant.
We are
servants.
I mean, and this is just as basic as it can get.
Sure.
People are designed to fit in other people.
Amen.
Whether you floating in or no.
That is a
So
gift.
if you were created to fit with another person,
Sure.
you need
Other
people.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
So I don't do that whole the power of me. I can't do this by myself. Nothing that I've done by myself.
Amen.
Nothing.
Amen.
Everything that I do, I always honor and thank and appreciate the people who've helped me to become what I am.
Sure.
Yes. That's important.
That's important. So I teach that. And so one of the things that I remember about Marcel, when Marcel was in college, we went on a trip to Hawaii.
Nice.
They played in Hawaii, and we went to Hawaii. And so when I got there, one of the other mothers, a Caucasian mother, said, "Are you Marcel's mother?"
Mhm.
And I said, "Yeah." She said, "Oh, I want to hug you because your son is just amazing." And I said, "Oh, well, thank you." And I hear that.
Boy can't be amazing.
And I hear no, but let me say this: it wasn't a race thing.
Right.
What happened was, Marcel was her son's roommate, and the boy had an asthma attack and had to go to the hospital. Marcel went to the hospital with him, stayed all night, and every hour called her
Give an
to
update.
give an update to let her know because she couldn't get there.
Oh my goodness.
And so for her,
Yeah.
that compassion
Was
meant
there
something.
it is.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that, yeah. So it was like, I so appreciate that you taught that. And what I really appreciate, because sometimes people do stuff and like, well, look what I did, and I did this. I never knew it till she told me.
Yeah.
Because he never said a word. Because that's just what he does.
Exactly. To
So-
teach them to just do that.
Just do that. And so I will say this, going back to the whole father thing. Even though him and his father aren't super close, and I asked him this question, I said, if your father got ill, what would you do? He said, I'd go take care of him. I'm happy he feels that. Because just because a person didn't earn compassion, don't mean they don't deserve compassion. Because if we use that logic that somebody gotta earn it, we would never get what we get from Christ, because Christ never did anything,
Mm-hmm.
but he died for you.
Amen.
There it is.
Woo-hoo.
Can you talk about law number 9? Using
Ooh,
intellect to handle conflict.
conflict. Oh
So
my
everyone-
God. Oh my God. Oh my God.
I love it.
I used to tell Marcel would ask me, if somebody do this to me, is it okay to hit them? If somebody do this to me, is it okay to hit? And I says, well, you know, we live in a society that for some reason we think violence is the answer. But one of the things that I say all the time is that animals become aggressive. Animals fight. There's a reason why we have, as humans, why we have dominion over animals. And that's because we have intellect. And so I used to say all the time, show me you can think. Show me you can think.
I like that.
Show me you can think. So in a situation, if you're looking at it and you just go, well, I'm a jack of all, you're not thinking. That's aggression. If you learn to think it through, you will do something different. And so I remember he got in trouble for fighting someone because they said, he clocked somebody because they said, your mama is fat and black. And he clocked them. And he got kicked out of school. And I said, well, what happened that you done lost it and got off your square? And he says, they said your mama is fat and black. I says, okay, let's examine that. I said, every scale that I step on, and at that time I was 115 pounds heavier than I am today. So I said, what comes up, the weight is obese. Obese is another word for fat.
Okay.
So that was a fact. I said, then he said that your mama black. Have you seen me lately?
Shout out Melanin.
It's not many shades darker than me. And that too is a fact. I said, but now let me ask you some questions. The fact that I am fat and black, does it mean that I'm not a good mother?
Right.
He said, no.
Oh.
I said, does it mean that I don't love you? He said, no. I said, does it mean that that little boy will be the better for being in my space? He said, no. I say, so never allow someone to get you off your square for a fact. So the next time someone said to him, your mother is fat and black. He said, I'm happy you can see.
Amen.
You got your vision. You got your vision.
And the thing I tell people is that I was able to say that because I'm okay with me.
Yes.
I know some parents that if they hear that they at the school, where they at?
Right.
Where they at? So we model things to our children. What they see us do is what they do.
Sure.
Because modeling is the number one way to teach a social or behavioral skill.
Yes. Yes, it is.
You can say it all day, but if you don't see it,
Behavior model, PBIS.
yes,
Right. PBIS
Yes.
all day long.
yes.
This is great stuff. I believe that this book, it's just so ironic about how we even came up, to this podcast, how we met you, all of these things that are teachable to us, even though we're going through it. Terry, love you, baby. But any other law before we get into talking about academics with you and how we kind of see it and how you did it and how
I was gonna say, can she just go ahead and state what the laws are, so for our listeners, so
Okay.
they'll know to pique their curiosity.
Okay, so the laws are, number one, train up a child, and you know that comes from scripture. Proverbs.
train up a child in what you want them to be.
And then law number two, discover your son's passion and use it for your advantage.
Amen.
That was one of my favorites. When he said he wanted to play basketball, I was like, I can't participate with my time or my money unless you bring me a 3.5.
Amen.
And when he was in middle school, he brought me a 3.3 and I shut it down.
Okay.
And everybody was mad at me.
That wasn't the agreement.
It wasn't even an agreement. That just
Terry,
wasn't my
you on to
standard.
Yes.
Yeah.
You on to something, Terry.
Yeah, it was, and so his coaches were mad. My dad was mad. My brothers were mad. All the men were mad. They said, "But he's still on the honor roll, but he's not on my honor roll."
Right.
So from that day to this day, nothing less than a 3.8. Graduated high school valedictorian of his class. I turned down Harvard, so.
March.
I knew what I was working with, so I worked it.
I know that's right.
Law number 4 again, never bad mouth the absent father. Number 4, be an example of real life. Number 5, demand and give respect.
Nice.
I like it.
I give respect, but I demand it. And so even now as an adult, and sometimes he'll say something, and I'll just stop him and say, well, you do realize that I know what the world is like without a Marcel. You've never been in a world without Sabrina.
Told him.
That was cute.
I'm just saying, he was like, dang, Ma, that's ouch.
Say that again.
I know what it's like to live in a world without a Marcel.
Without Jamal.
And you don't know what it's like to live in a world without a Sabrina.
Without Terry. Okay, I got it.
I'm just saying. So yeah,
Get in the house.
and then it's important to give respect too, because I see parents that talk to their children any kind of way.
Oh.
Any kind of way.
I never cussed him. I don't, I love him.
Yeah.
I love him, so I want him to know what respect feels like.
Right.
So I just don't tolerate it, and I don't want anybody else to disrespect him.
Yes.
So this is the thing, though, because when they become young men, as women, as mothers, certain things we can't do for them,
Yep.
or we'll make them not good for somebody
We
else.
will enable them.
Yeah.
We'll make them not a good man, and if they're not good men, then they won't be a good husband. They won't be a good father because they haven't been taught to stand on their own. So I remember when my father was in hospice and Marcel wanted to stay home, and they were in a championship. They were playing a championship, and so someone said something, adult in his life said something very derogatory about him not coming to practice. And so I was on my way. My purse, I'm going to talk to him. And Marcel said, no, I got to handle that, because if you go and say whatever you say, you're going back home. I still got to deal with it.
Amen.
Right.
So you got to let me deal with it, how I'm going to deal with it. And so that helped me to begin to go from being the supervisor to being the supporter. And you got to know when to do it.
Yes.
So then number 6 is teach what it means to be a black male in this society. So yeah, I had the discussions about driving while black, what
Yes.
to do when you get pulled over,
Sure.
you know, the fact that there are going to be people that don't like you and talk down to you, and then how do you do that? How do you handle that? So yeah, I just talked about it. And then number 7, infuse concepts of coachability, confidence, and compassion. 8, make sure education is important to him.
To him.
Not
To
just you.
him.
Yeah.
Yes.
Number 9, use intellect to handle conflict. Number 10, be a leader. Teach them to be a leader, not a follower.
Mm-hmm.
Law number 11, obtain positive male support system.
Still need it.
Still need it. And please stop on Father's Day saying Happy Father's Day to your female friends because they single parents. Please stop doing it, because you ain't nobody's daddy.
And I like law number 11. I'm sorry, law number 10. I'm sorry, I'm on 11, support system. And I say that because we talked about it, I think, last episode. I specifically seek out positive males to put him around. And I seek out research on who you are before I put you around him, because I need him to see what it looks like to be a positive.
And I'm going to say this, and y'all might not agree. Y'all might not invite me back ever again. But there are things about being a man I will never know.
Me too.
Absolutely.
Yes.
So I can't make a man be a man because I really don't know what it's like to be a man. And I use a story in the book. I talk about how when Marcel was about 4 or 5, he came in my room one morning and says, "Mom, what does it mean when your private part gets real strong?"
Strong. Nice.
I said, "Ooh, I don't know, because I don't have one. Call your papa." So I called my dad and said, "No, your grandson is finna call you and ask you about his private part.
Be ready.
Be ready." But I don't take that away from the male experience by trying to make it seem like I'm everything. I'm both. No, I'm not.
Yeah.
Yes.
Not a man.
It's okay to say you don't know.
It's,
Yes.
baby,
It's okay.
baby, I know I don't know.
I can't tell. I
And
can't
don't-
help you anywhere with that situation.
And
So
don't
sorry.
want to know. I'm just saying. Number 12, model and teach effective communication.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
I wanted him to be able to talk to everybody from the street to the president.
Yes.
I love it.
Yes.
And then number 13 says a baker's dozen.
Yes, please.
And a baker's dozen is whenever you get a baker's dozen, you get 13 donuts instead of 12.
Yes, you do.
And so I have in the baker's dozen 4 additional tips specifically for when your child becomes an adult.
Perfect.
What to do when they become an adult. And so one of the things, because people don't make that transition well. And so sometimes, I remember Marcel wrote the foreword to the book. And in the foreword, he says, "Today my mother is my everything." He says, "But there will come a day that she will no longer be my everything because I will have my own wife."
Mm-hmm.
I had a woman read that and come up to me crying. She says, "I don't want to ever not be my son's everything." I say, shame on you.
Shame on you. Facts.
Yourself.
Shame on you. Because there are things that your son will require that you ain't going to ever be able to give. And if you do, you nasty.
Exactly.
Yes.
So they come to us to leave us.
Yes.
And we got to be okay with them leaving us. So when Marcel went off to school, people kept saying, "You're going to be a mess." I was so good that he
So
was
much
gone.
Yeah, I said the same thing. They was like, what did you do when you dropped somebody out? Listen, I felt like me and her dad put everything in her. So when we do leave her, she's going to be okay. I didn't shed one tear. I wasn't nervous, but I was in the midst of driving back looking at Mr. Thomas like, "You all right?" Just to make sure. And I know he was good. So that's the confidence that you have as a parent, knowing that you have done and plant those seeds so you can have a fruitful label. Yes. And I'm thinking like, yes, this is what it's about. Absolutely.
That's what we do all this work for. You
Sure.
raise them up and you make sure they learn this and know this so that when they go, they're good. No more worries about that.
And you don't want to
need
be a smothering mother.
Yes.
I don't know about you, but I've dated men. And it's not a bad word to say you're a mother's boy.
Right.
It's not a bad thing.
Loves it.
It's just when the mother doesn't know how to separate and cut the apron strings. So, my son's 25. He'll be 26 on the 30th.
Amen.
And so he's in a relationship, and I tell him all the time, I don't have an opinion. because I'm not the one that's gonna be.
Mm-hmm.
So if who he chooses is who I'm going to love,
Amen.
and I'm going to love, and I'm going to be, because I don't have any birth daughters. I have a couple of daughters that I've adopted, but I'm gonna be good, and I don't want to be the type of mother that she go, oh, there she come.
Right.
You teaching.
Crossing your arms.
Yeah, like well, that's my son. No.
That's her boo. That's her boo.
That's her boo. And so I remember, like, his godfather passed away last year, and so when he was really ill, and I knew that Marcel was gonna take that pretty hard, I called her, and I said, okay, now this is what we're gonna have to do, because I needed her to know, because she's with them in a space that I'm not with them,
Mm-hmm.
and I wanted to prepare her for that space.
Nice.
Right.
So I did that, and so we just got to learn how to be good mothers beyond being the supervisor.
Yes. I really like it. It's just
Nice summary.
Yes,
Right.
a great summary. Any last minute advice, questions, you guys? I mean, anything you guys want to ask?
He is not a statistic. We already know. We got it right here. So everybody needs to go get this book because
Yes.
we need to catch up on these laws.
Yes, we do.
Good stories in the book too. Good stories.
I enjoy the
I like
fact that the laws, the conversation
Sure.
is all something that mother, father, anyone raising children can go through or are going through, and they can get. I should say, sometimes stuff, you learn the lesson, but to hear the lesson again, put you back in that space so you
Right.
can make sure you double down on your kid and help them to get to this space of what you said. In the end, they can think on their own, do as they
Right.
need to do, and we don't have to, worry because we've done what it takes.
We don't have to supervise.
It's
You don't have to supervise.
It's
You
a
can just
survival of the
support.
fittest. Make
Yeah.
them fit so they can survive.
Yeah.
And that's our number one goal, with our children.
Yes.
Dr. Jackson, you want to tell them where you can, our listeners can get your book?
They can get the book on my website, which is my name,
Amen.
SabrinaJackson.com. You can go there and get the book, or you can get it on Amazon. It's available on Amazon. And if you want it in Kindle form,
Yay.
Okay.
Shout out Terry.
you can get it on.
I need
you
my
can get it
book to
on-
read to me.
Yeah, you can get it on Amazon as well.
Can you please give us your handles, IG, Twitter, Facebook?
The People Expert on Instagram, and on Facebook it is Dr. Sabrina Jackson, and Twitter it's The People Expert, and LinkedIn it's Dr. Sabrina Jackson.
Thank you.
Wonderful guest. This episode will probably end up being one of my favorites.
Oh my!
Because the laws are the laws, and
The laws are the laws.
That's all I'm
The
saying.
laws
That's
are the
law.
laws.
So
That's just law.
go ahead.
Do we indicate, or at least speak about how we got to?
Oh, meet her.
Yes.
Okay, so we'll tell that little story before we end the show. You want to tell it, Terry?
So we were standing. We were at 9:10
Mike Bonner's.
at Mike Bonner's.
We did
radio
Mike Bonner's
station.
show, our first
It's like
interview.
It's like midnight, and we're like standing in the doorway, running our mouth like, "What we about to eat?" Is
It was like
anything
one.
open?
It was like one, almost one, because your
Almost
show
one.
comes
Your
on
show
at
starts
one.
at 1.
Right. So it was just after midnight, and she came in. She was sparkling like, sure. And we were standing in the doorway, so we like, "Excuse me." Oh, sorry, we're in the way. Sorry about that. We're moving out the way. We turned around, like, "Where you going shining like that?" And she turned around and stuck out a leg and said, "Well, I just came from a yeah, and the conversation went on from there, and she told us who she was, and he was like, "Oh, Marcel, we know him. You know him, don't you, babe?" And we sat there and talked for another 20 minutes until it was time for her show, and
Sure.
that's how we ran into her kind of at the...
And it's just so, God works in so
Absolutely.
many good ways, because here it is, we haven't started the show, we don't even know who our first guest is going to be, and we're excited, and then she just walks in, and the
That was our
conversation,
guest.
and it's like, oh my gosh. So, and to have the and I said to you that night, your son, from what I saw, from the moment I met him, saw him work, I said, he is like the best. He's like, he knows what he's doing, he cares about the kids, and he takes advice. And I didn't tell you this part. There was something that I said to him through a friend that I saw, and he took that advice. And I'm like, he don't even know me, but he took that advice. but that goes back to being able to grow.
Mm-hmm.
You know, not thinking you know everything
Sure.
and wanting to be better every day. And I think, you know, for me, to know your son before I met you and to hear all these laws, to know they work.
Mm-hmm.
They work at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
it was a blessing.
Yes.
Just for our listeners, our IG handle is @ThroughTheNets. What are we on Facebook? Through the Nets.
Through the Nets and Through the Net podcast. So we have 2 things.
Yes, we have a group. So Through the Nets podcast is our group,
Right.
and then Through the Nets is the name on Facebook, and then we are Through the Nets 9 on Twitter, and the 9 represents the 9 ladies in our group.
That's cute.
No, the divine 9.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that was cute.
Yes, it was.
So write that down.
And then lastly, we'll give a shout out to our sponsors, Terry.
We got House of Lemonade, Strawberry Lemonade. He provides our drinks. I forgot to go pick them up, ladies. I'm sorry.
It was too early.
I didn't know it was snowing. So he provides our drinks. We got Enjoy Detroit. He provides our attire. We didn't go pick that up either. Sorry again.
I don't know that, Terry. They don't know that.
It was me. I had a rough
Our
day.
listeners don't know we don't have.
They gotta, I'm normal. I gotta go pick up this stuff.
Be real.
I
Be
had
real.
class
Be
yesterday
real.
and all that good stuff. So anyway, and we gotta shout out our other sponsor. We got Horatio Williams who he's gonna provide for us a whole bunch of stuff as soon as we get it together.
Yes,
Yes,
he's
big
awesome.
thank you to
He's
Horatio
awesome.
Williams.
So those are our sponsors right now. We're ready for the rest of the sponsors to come on and call us because we need a lot more things we got going on. But yeah, those are our sponsors.
And you
right
can
now.
get our t-shirts. Just visit our Facebook pages,
Yes.
black
Black or white.
or white.
Yes.
So that was the great show. Thank you,
Thank
Dr.
you.
Sabrina Jackson. Give her a round of applause. We appreciate it. Until next week, we are out.
Yes. Through the Nets.
Through the
It's
Nets.
bigger than basketball.
Amen. Yes, it is. Awesome, awesome, awesome.
We're so efficient.
We tried today. We got it on pace today. Hey, y'all. Oh!